This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog, coming to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observation number 97. So, as you try to finish all the movies that were on your 2019 list and your 2020 list, and sometimes 2021 because you're just impatient and you haven't got all the movies because they come from the library, you're not going to get the best movies. So, I got this movie before, during, and after. It's, about an almost 80-something minute movie, despite the movie saying it's an hour and 14 minutes. And one thing I can say is the lead actress playing this actor, who does plays and musical, been married, had miscarriage, blah, 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 and their marriage is on the rocks because her husband cheated on her. She looks like it's a believable role. Like, she looks like she's gone through all this stuff. She's not like this Hollywood makeup type of thing where the person doesn't look anything believable in the role, and you're just like, okay, that's not believable with this actress and blah blah blah. Her group of friends also are believable, and them trying to find the correct, guidance, the correct marriage counselor was interesting. They went through so many different ones, each one suggests one. It was interesting. It was cliche. The guy cheated on her, has a boat, blah 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 blah. She's trying to live her best life, and it was very slowly moving for an almost 80-minute movie. And I don't want to call it a romantic dramedy because I didn't really laugh whatsoever. It was more very slow, boring type of film. It's only believable because of the actors look like they can actually be in these roles. So yeah, unless you're really dying to watch a short dramedy, that's really more of a drama about a woman, trying to get out of her bad marriage. Yeah, go watch this movie before, during, and after. Then I watched the movie Horizon Line, and you have to really believe in this plot that when you watch this, everything that happens is believable, that it is very realistic that happens to these people, and this is the actions they take, because you got to give credit to the two main actors in this movie, Allison Williams and Alexander Dreymon, because they do a good job of their roles and in making you believe that this is really happening and they can survive this. So basically what it is this woman has this job and she's a year away. She spends a year abroad before she takes the actual job in this small little island that's near Madagascar. So it's interesting place and plot. But she says to the guy, yeah, I don't know if I really want to stay here. So she leaves. But her friend's getting married and that guy still lives there. And they meet up. And they sleep together. Woo. So that was predictable. And then they get on a plane because the woman has a destination wedding and they go hopping from one island to the other. And Keith David, I don't know how much money they gave him because he's barely in this movie, but what happens is he has a heart attack and she's had some flying lessons with him, and when she lived on this island for a year, and you have to believe that the two of them are going to be able to survive this on the amount of gas they have, all the stunts they got to pull to fix whatever problem comes with this, flying through bad weather, gas tank being an issue, something being damaged, the compass not working, all these different things, and that the two of them have to survive this together and land this plane and get rescued and not deal with sharks and bad weather. And for the 90 minutes you're watching this movie, you're like, okay, some of this doesn't seem realistic or unbelievable, but the actors do a good job. They really put this script well together. There was some cliche things that me and my roommate could have been like, okay, we can see that happening, blah, 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 blah. So you have to really immerse yourself into believing that this is something that can actually happen and that you can maybe survive this for it to be fully into it. But yeah, it was an enjoyable movie. It's definitely a suspenseful movie. You're trying to see if they're going to make it out or not, and that's like the thing. So they got you on the suspense thing, so I would suggest it. I then watched The Cleansing Hour, and I'm like going into this going, okay, this movie's going to be bad because it looks really stupid. But whoever wrote this movie, directed it, casted it, put it all together, they really went full effort into like fully committing to this movie and everything. So it was well put together. The acting was good, the writing was good. You get fully immersed in this and you're like, yeah, this could actually be something that actually happens, and you're just like, yeah, really involved in it. So Ryan Guzman, who he may have been in other TV shows and movies, but I know him as Eddie, former veteran turned firefighter in the show 911, and he's a good actor in there. This one, he's got long hair, scruffy beard. He supposedly dropped out of being the priesthood, but then became one, and is now as an exorcist. And it's a streaming TV show where they cleanse people of the demons, and it's something that he's selfish and he's all about the likes and the follows and all the other stuff. And his friend Kyle Gallner, who I know him as Bart Allen from Smallville, and he's been in a lot of other films before in TV shows, and he does a really good job as his producer, the guy who's best friend his whole entire life. putting on this show and going through this. And obviously, we all know that it's a TV show, so they're trying to get people to realize, oh, is this a real thing? What's going on? So for like the 90 minutes on this movie, they set it up really well. Their friendship and the fact that this is the show, and he's just doing it for the publicity. But then, what happens one night? This spirit possesses Kyle's girlfriend and takes over the show, and murders happen, and all the creepy horror zombie-like effects and bloody gory stuff that make it a horror film really bring it together. Confessional stuff and like all this other stuff. It was really good how they brought it all together where it's always fake, but this one night it becomes real, and then they tie it in with everybody around the world watching it, like in Afghanistan, let's say, and in China, and like just down the street or somewhere else, and everybody's like watching this live stream and like, oh my god, I can't believe this is actually true, it's happening. So it's a very good movie. I give Ryan Guzman credit that he makes a film that's really good outside of his work on 911. So yeah, I would suggest you definitely watch this. Then I watched the movie A-Holes, A Theory, a documentary by John Walker. Basically, it's like a book he read about A-Hole, and basically what this guy does, like, you know what, I'm just going to interview every Joe Schmo off the street and talk about their experiences at work, their dating life, their social life, just people who are A-holes in general, and like asking them questions. And I feel like he did this so he can just make a documentary, interview people. Got to interview John Cleese, famous actor from like Monty Python and Fawlty Towers, and other famous people, and talk about A-hole, and then splice together clips from television shows and movies where they talk about people being A-holes, and like making a scientific study and interviewing professors and scientific people. And for an hour and almost 27 minutes, you kind of learn stuff, but you really don't. Then he has to like, oh, in Canada, let's get this Mountie to tell about how there are A-holes in Canada, even though they're nice. So it was an okay documentary. It was very short. It was due to time constraints. I watched this one in particular, but yeah, really wasn't that much ground covered in this movie. It was just like, okay, cool. A-holes are everywhere. Then, like I said with the Cleansing Hour and Horizon Line, you got to really get into it. This is the movie Sky Sharks, where you have to really get it into your brain that this is something that could possibly happen and get in this real outrageous world. Because you're looking at this like, okay, this looks like an action adventure film, science fiction, but then they're like, but then they list it as a horror comedy. So you have to look at it as all the Nazi scientists, they were crazy and they're doing everything possible in the war, that if they didn't stop it, we didn't end World War II, that they may have come out with all this weird stuff. A lot of these scientists were hired by the United States or other countries to continue their scientific progress and not be, murdered or put in jail, executed, and they helped other countries out. But let's just say there are all this like scientific stuff they worked on that was scrap and they never actually came to be. Then all of a sudden, it comes out of the woodworks and the Third Reich is out there to attack you, and you're like, oh crap. What are we going to do? So supposedly the scientist who was part of this group is leading tech guy, scientist in the United States, and everybody loves him, and he's all this tech stuff. But it comes back to haunt him because, just imagine, there are super soldier Nazis who, they're super soldiers, and they can't be killed, and it's hard to destroy them, and that's one element of these soldiers. But then they got zombie soldiers who were dead Nazis who come back from the dead, and then they're attacking you as well. And you're like, super soldiers, Nazi soldiers who are zombies, zombie Nazi soldiers. And then you got sky sharks, sharks that they can control, that fly in the skies, that can sense all this stuff. And they just start attacking random planes. And you got to go, what the heck's going on? And Tony Todd, who's a very good actor in all the science fiction and horror films that he's been in, he plays like a general in this thing. And he's like, okay, cool. They got to counsel stuff, and they got to survive. But then you got the whole thing where both his daughters work for him, and they both have their skills, and blah, blah, blah. So you got to really get into the mind of, okay, these Nazi scientists made super soldiers, zombie soldiers, and sky sharks, and you have to realize, wow, what if they get resurrected this project, somebody decides, let's start this up again, let's try to bring the Third Reich back, and you're like, okay, let's get into this really outrageous thing. It's like Sharknado. You got to really get into the craziness of this movie, of the hybrid of a science fiction, action, adventure, horror comedy movie, to be like, okay, cool. I'm really immersed in this, and this guy who's 115 years old is still alive, and he's trying to fix the mistake that he made. So yeah, I liked it. I thought it was interesting. It may have been over the top in some of the silliness of the movie, but the science fiction and the action was pretty good. I would suggest it if you're looking for something that's really interesting and out there. Then I watched The Closet, which is basically a cliche horror film where you got a possession of a doll, a possession of a child, or a creature kidnapping a child, and this child goes missing because they're neglected, like a lot of movies. And a single parent's doing their best, and he can't find her, and the cops think he murdered her, and nobody believes him that she's gone missing, and only one person believes him, and he's got this like, scientific but also like mythological like spells and stuff and religious stuff like exorcist, and he's crazy, and you're like, I don't know if I can believe him, but I have nobody else to turn to. And the coolest part of the movie is like when they like go to try to find his daughter, fight off these creatures and all the technology and all this mythological stuff and like spell, like them trying to save the day. Like that was the cool stuff. There's a lot of boring drama talking for the first like 20-30 minutes of the movie, and it wasn't until like this guy comes into the picture, helps him out, and they do all of it. And the movie's either going to end where they save the daughter or not, but then you realize all these children have been neglected or abused, and this creature is taking them on, and then they're stuck in there forever and stuff. And it has done with a stupid doll, but in this way it's a closet where kids just enter a closet and then they can be taken and stuff by this creature. So it's interesting, and I'm glad the Waukegan movie people at the public library got the dub version so I can actually watch it and listen and not have to read and look at the screen at the same time. So like it was a good experience that way, and it was only 90 minutes. So you have to like, it's got some cliche things, but it was okay. Then I watched Host, and I'm due to the Skokie Library and the Bloomington Library, they covered it, so you can't really tell everything what it looks like. But it's just like an 87-minute movie where this young couple gets possessed by these creatures, by some sort of light, and they go to somebody's house for Christmas Eve, and they basically start murdering them and torturing them, and it really brings out all the insecurities and secrets and family dysfunction between all the kids and all the parents and stuff, and it's just brought out on full display because they're about to be killed and like tortured, and they're like, oh no, we're about to die, so let's just spill out all of our family issues and stuff, and they gotta try to survive. And at least in horror films, somebody's gotta survive, so at least one person survives in this movie and kills these people. But then you see there are other people who are possessed and they're out there, and it's like, okay, whatever. Not really great movie written and put together. I would not suggest it. So don't watch the movie Host. Closet was okay for certain parts of the movie. A-hole theory, A-hole's a theory, wasn't really that much ground tackled in this documentary. Before, during, after was slowly for a dramatic movie of romance, and it was like, it was okay. It was only believable. The movies that I really like is you have to really get fully immersed in believing in all this stuff in Sky Shark, believing that the horizon line is something that can actually happen, and then going through the journey and suspense, and how well they put the cleansing hour together, and it's like, wow, this actually was better than I thought it was going to be. It was really pretty good. Those are the three ones where I thought they were pretty good. Thanks for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 97. For On the Radar Table Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.